Yes, you recognize me. How are you? I was going to ask you, would you be in Daddy?
Okay, now,
We need a microphone.
um, we have a microphone. I think we may be able to not be microphone.
Are you comfortable with or without?
Yeah. Well, actually, we should take a microphone. We should take a microphone because we are recording upstairs. And this is a recording that becomes important later.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll use the microphone, so I'll use one as well.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else upstairs? Does anyone know? No. So everyone follows everybody else. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being here despite the wonderful weather and the Christmas festivities everywhere. This, I think, is far more important. Welcome to this CreatiVelo 2024, where we're going to address a hot topic in a few minutes, mainly about digital media. Is it a curse or a blessing for children and young adults? I don't think we're going to find a yes or no answer, but we're definitely going to have a very nice debate about it. Before we start, I would like you to welcome the president and founder of Youth for the Planet. He is also a filmmaker. He is a media expert. One can say Medienwissenschaftler, we say in German. I don't know if there is an English term for that. Above all, he's a passionate person and a doer, and that's good. So, Jörg, you're going to give us a little intro about Youth for the Planet and also a little material for us to discuss afterwards.
I hope so. Hello, everybody. Actually, I'm here, and I'm very pleased to stay with Natasha to talk about my first camera. So I started with my first camera, and the first camera was actually a black and white camera in the early 70s. And when I had this camera, my uncle used it to transport my picture about 1,000 meters across to somebody who was taking the picture. Maybe I can show it to you. See if this works. No,
It's already a fantastic example of positive things you can do on the phone.
Well, positive thinking is key, actually. So what I'm saying when I talk about digital media or media altogether is don't panic. Because this is Douglas Adams saying don't panic, and this has to do with the sphere of technology that is taking over. And I think to keep a clear mind is very important in order to live through that. So the reason why I started with my camera is this camera was black and white and had no resolution whatsoever. You could hardly see actually what was there. So this is me from this camera. Transmitted to somebody else, and he took a picture of this camera image from my room. And I was 14 maybe, or 13, I can't remember actually. So why am I talking about this picture? Because this picture could be recorded. There were no means to record this except for really big corporations or television stations. At that time, nobody could start surveillance with it. Nothing could be done because you had no transmitting devices. Everything was analog. So people were actually helpless in using these media devices. They were so costly that nobody could really afford them. So what happened then? 10 years later, I was co-founder of the film office in Hamburg, and there was a big fight between analog media and video. video people were dismissed as not being serious filmmakers. Because somehow, I don't know if they used machines that people didn't know. So eventually, at that time, the surveillance became a topic in public media. Surveillance, but this was just a survey, actually. In Germany, they made a survey asking people, do you have a toilet? Do you have, what kind of heating do you use, and so forth. But still, people, activists, were so angry about this that they ran a campaign against this. And this campaign was supported by images from cameras and their capability of capturing an image. So fast forward another 10 years, I came together with people from the media business. Of course, I made films for television, and then I made a film with Bill Gates, 1995, Windows 95, you all remember. And Bill Gates said to me, well, actually, what I envy my kids for, and he only had a daughter one then, I envy them for having access to knowledge that I didn't have when I was young, and he's by the same age as I am. So he was envious of his kids for knowledge. And so already you can see this evolving into something that meant to be, you can get to know the world as it is in a better way. You have more capabilities in your pocket. Fast forward 20 years, it started that data became the new gold. Data is now the gold that people are earning enormous amounts of money with. Data that is coming from people, it's coming from the planet actually, scientific data, everything becomes don't cry here. So everything becomes recordable, it becomes storable, and it becomes something that you can later make connection with. So now we have a global surveillance system run by different countries. They do a full take of everything that is crossing borders somewhere. So the British, for example, do a full take of everything that is going to the US, which means basically everything. When we Zoom, when we use our phones, actually everything is recorded and stored, but nobody is listening. That's the other side. Now nobody's listening, only machines are listening. And now we have AI capabilities where the machines are then used to sift through the data, maybe a later day, maybe in 10 years' time, they will come up and say, you did actually do this or think this or record this 10 years ago. Now I make you responsible. Now I declare you a terrorist or something. Now I declare you something. So this is changing the way we actually access our data. And now we have, 10 years later, today, we have Apple Intelligence in here. And Apple Intelligence doesn't mean anything else than just sifting through the data that is basically recording our life in real time, all the time. And so if anybody gets access to this data and asks questions about us, about me, then this will be sort of completely transparent. All the data is there. Of course, Google and Amazon, they all know so much about us, about our desires, our needs, the books we are reading, the films we are watching. Now, Netflix knows exactly when we start watching and when we stop watching, and so everything is transformed into data now. And I think this is the reason why I think data is now something that we should talk about, and that our relationship with data is becoming more and more important, especially when we think about how to use the power in the pocket, which this is as well. The power in the pocket should transform our societies to change the way we interact with people, because this is a communication device, and this is a superpower device. And communication is the human superpower that is making us able to do anything, really. Build pyramids. Why not? Let's build a cathedral. Why not? It takes 100 years, okay. We just build a communication strategy, and then people will carry on building for 100 years a cathedral. And then think of going to the moon or going to build superstructures like the internet. Everything is possible by communication. So when we think we have a two-sided thing, we have the bad side of surveillance, control, recording of everything, and on the other hand, we have the opportunity to use these devices as our superpower to connect with people in a meaningful way, to say, okay, let's do this together. And this is my approach. Now I want to show you a little film that we can have. It's in the making.
Kritisches Denken ist echt anstrengend. Der olle Sokrates hat immer mehr Fragen als Antworten. Heute haben wir doch kennengelernt. Oh, nur ganz kurz. Hilfe, Sokrates! Was passiert mit mir? Ich will hier raus.
Maja, du bist in der Datenhölle.
Oh.
Die saugt alles ab, was dir lieb und teuer ist. Jeder Klick von dir, jedes Foto, jedes Like wird verkauft. Damit wird sie immer größer und stärker.
Mir wird super übel.
Kein Wunder, du verlierst Lebenskraft. Außerdem setzt jeder deiner Swipes gigantische Datenmaschinen in Gang.
Wie das denn?
Auf mehrspurige Energieschub als riesige Stahlwerke.
Warum merke ich das nicht?
Weil das alles ganz weit weg passiert. Stell dir vor, was man mit der Energie alles machen könnte.
Wie uncool. Ich verschwende Stunden mit belanglosen Kram.
Das ist der Zeitsauger. Der lässt sich endlos durch Katzenvideos und Memes scrollen. So vergisst du einfach alles andere um dich herum. Familie, Freundinnen.
Warum komme ich einfach nicht los?
Das macht der Achtsamkeitsdieb.
Der lenkt mich dauernd ab.
Der füttert dein Gehirn mit Belohnungen, sogenannten Dopaminkicks.
Das ist ja Horror.
Du willst immer mehr, immer länger, immer öfter. Dein echtes Leben verblasst.
Ich verliere auch völlig die Kontrolle. Einmal war ich 12 Stunden lang im Netz.
Ja, der Muträuber schickt dir endlos tolle Bilder und Posts von anderen, mit denen du dich automatisch vergleichst. Bei dem Spiel kannst du nur verlieren.
Ach, Sokrates, wie komme ich hier bloß wieder
Raus. Und wir gehen bloß wieder raus. Genau, das ist die Frage, mit der wir eigentlich in die Diskussion einsteigen werden. Ich sage noch zwei Zahlen. Das eine ist die aktuelle Zahl, jetzt wie viele Internetnutzer gibt es jetzt?
Wenig, ja.
Oh, how many internet users are online today? Roughly. How many billions? What do you think? 5? 5.6 is the estimation. 5.6 actually. And what do you think? How many hours are people online?
Okay. 6 hours.
6.5 hours. That's everybody on this planet. So think of South America, China. People are online everywhere, and for different reasons. So you book a flight, of course you're online. You talk to your friends, you're online. You do some research. So now our life has gone into this sphere, and you have to be aware what price we're paying and what this means. And on the other hand, how can we actually unlock the superpower that we need to fight climate change and biodiversity challenges and everything that we are facing right now? Well, that's a big question. I want to invite the panel now to discuss exactly that. How do we get to the next level of understanding media and data?
Thank you. Yeah, thanks a lot. Microphone. Thank you. You can already take a seat. That was triggering, wasn't it? We already had a few facts that we could discuss about. So I'll invite the panelists onto the stage. I start, of course, with the host of the day, the principal of St. George's. Zeba, is that correct? Yes. Zebra. Yeah, I was I'm sure about the spelling. Please take a seat. Higher education, Caroline Core, who's representing parents. Yes. Brian, who was not so fit for yesterday, but was so very happy to be here. Representing the Conférence nationale des élèves du Luxembourg, and we have Manon Bloch. The political aspect of things is very important in this discussion. Now, we decided today that we're going to say, of course, very interactive. So anyone who has anything to say at any moment can do so. If you would like to hop on stage, you can grab a stool. You see we have many. And then you can just sit next to us and join the conversation. Isn't that wonderful? So I will grab a seat as well, and I will join my panelists. Voila. Now, where do we start? You did set a certain stage here. Thank you again for that. I think I would like to start by quoting a few people. Obviously, I did a bit of research before I came here in order to discuss all this with my guests. During a recent American Psychology Association conference, Dr. Vivek Murthy, she's Surgeon General of the United States of America, stated that the exposure of our children to electronics is an uncontrolled experiment of which we do not know the outcome. Then we have psychologist Kenneth Gergen, who coined the terms digital autism and absent yet present to explain how technology is muting the quality of our social lives and our capacity to engage fully. Australia has just passed a social media ban for young people under 16, and in Luxembourg, smartphones will be completely banned starting Easter 25 in all primary schools. So these are absolute facts, things that are going on right now, and that we're also going to base this discussion on. So I'm going to start, of course, with the Australian ban and also the measures that have been taken or are going to be taken in Luxembourg as of 2025. And I will start maybe with the representative of the Ministry of Higher Education and Youth, Letizia Lucas. So overall, what do you think about Australia banning social media to people under 16? And what do you think about the ban in primary schools? Is it on? Do you just need to press that red button at the bottom? Or I'll pass you my microphone.
Okay.
First of all, thank you for having me on this panel and to point out what
no use of voice or picture in school because children will post these and use them for mobbing. So again, this is nothing new. It's just that the regulation has been amended and adapted to the change with time that we're experiencing it now. So things are being reevaluated and has slowly changed in regulation. We will, of course, thank you. We'll talk about regulation as we go on in this conversation, but I'd like to hear also from the St. George principal what the situation is here. I mean, I am aware that we are talking, or we headed this conference, digital media, but social media is, of course, a very important component of this digital media because it's an enabler, so to say. So what's the experience at St. George's regarding the use of smartphones?
So, is it? Yeah. Good. So, just to say that here we have a complete ban on phones in primary. Children aren't meant to bring them at all, and if they do, they're meant to strictly stay in bags. They're not for day-to-day use. It's because parents have requested that they have access to the phones because they may not be able to collect their children there after school care and so forth. In the secondary school, we have a ban, which is essentially, and I'm on the gate every morning. People coming in secondary are meant to put their phones away at the gate. They are allowed them briefly in the canteen area where I think you sat between 8 and 8:25. And then from that point on, they should not be visible at any time unless a teacher asks you to take the phone out for a specific activity. Because we do know that children are, both teachers and children are using phones for educational purposes. I have seen children this week. We have a series of exams, internal exams for our children aged 15 and above, 15 to 18. And I have seen them out with their phones out where they shouldn't. But then I've gone over and I've been talking to them and they're saying, but all my exam notes are on the phone. At my last school, I was the person who brought in the gate-to-gate ban on all mobile phones.
And that's very popular.
I was wildly popular. Especially when people, if you had your phone confiscated more than 3 times, I kept it overnight, and you had to come with a parent to collect your phone, and then explain why it was out and how it was out and how it was never going to be out again. But I do think, I think it's the phone. I think one of the things we really need to clarify is that there is absolutely a place for technology in the classroom. iPads help all sorts of children, particularly neurodiverse children, but we have to be, as adults, controlling the access and making sure that the programs that students are using are genuinely beneficial and really enhancing their learning. So I think there's a bigger responsibility than ever on teachers to really negotiate what works and what doesn't work. I also think we have a really major role in 3 areas, and I think the first one is digital citizenship. It's our responsibility to make our students really conscious of what it is to be a digital citizen, because that genie is not going back in the bottle. We are fundamentally digital citizens now. What does that mean? What does it look like? And I think that's really important to have student voice, because you guys know better than we do what your world is like, what makes you feel safe, and what makes you feel your life is enhanced, and what you feel will actually be a detrimental effect on your lives. So for me, that's a really important conversation to have with children, with the students in our school, from a level of voice. I do think social media is pernicious. I really responded to the bit when in the cartoon, the animation, when we saw all of these cats and all of these false images of happiness that we try to convey. But I think that's a critical part of our thinking as humans. We need to really navigate that and be critical and think critically. We know perfectly well, Shakespeare was writing 450 years ago about the difference between appearance and reality. We're still there. That's still a major debate for us as humans. And the 2 other elements are we really need to be teaching 2 different types of thinking. The first one is computational thinking, problem solving, using technology, using numbers. And for me, the other major one is design thinking. And I know I can see students here who are already using those approaches because we're trained up to do them. And I think part of the work that Annie does in particular with sustainability here is to really get children to think and to navigate and to think not just in terms of why are we doing what we're doing, but also how do we do it in a way that is healthy and responsive and is going to enhance who we are and what we are, because we're humans. This is a really exciting time because AI is really opening doors that we had no idea existed, but it's also a really frightening time. And I'm looking at all of these sustainable development goals around us, and we're in a point at which we know the dangers of populism, we know the dangers to democracy that are arising out of social media, out of digital technology. But you guys are going to help us out of this hole.
So, what do these young people think about all this? I'm going to throw the ball back to Timothy now. You can use my mic.
Thank you. That was a wonderful introduction.
Sorry.
I've also talked about this digital trends events. We are very much in a digital world, and it's very important to know that we have to empower the youth and teach the youth to how to grow up in this world. The ban for social media for youngsters, I think, is a very smart decision. I think it's important that you have to be cognitively at an age where you can learn how to use it correctly and not let it impact how you grow up too much. When I was still in primary school, there was no one who was having fun with us. I would think. Now it's getting down there because too much, there's too many phones there. And there were phones there, but only the teachers. For me, it's important to know that everyone has a phone these days, or at least in our society, and we have to. We all use the phone maybe 6 hours a day. We surf the internet a lot. You said 6 hours on average per person in the whole planet. That is a lot. That is a fourth of the whole day. And you also have to work. You also have to do this and that. You have to sleep for 8 hours a day. You don't have a lot of time otherwise. So what I want to think about here is just what are we doing if we are on the phone? Some people, depend very much on who you are and what you want to do, but people connect over these medias. People talk to people. For example, I can connect to my family in Canada. I don't see them ever. I only can talk to them or communicate to them if I'm using my phone, if I'm using the internet. So we have a lot of benefits. And for me, it's important to value these benefits and notice that we have all these possibilities. We should use these possibilities and make it the best for us. And maybe there's some things I do on my phone, but I didn't really need to do that right now. It took me 2 hours. I maybe don't do this again, and I'll do it again, and I'll do it again, and again, and again, and again. It's a loop, and we saw it on here, the data hell or whatever you said. But the whole internet and big data companies is a problem. They know a lot of us. They know me better than I know. And this can be very dangerous if it's for marketing purposes, because they can give you an advertisement. You need this. I actually maybe I know why. And but there's definitely dangers in this. If you know how to use it correctly, I think it's much more of a tool than a danger. And that is why I say we have to teach how to get use of this, how to get use of AI, how to think critically, and how to embrace this in the new digital world.
I think that's a very important claim you just made. Thank you very much for that. And that brings us, of course, to the whole reward and also addiction factor of social media. And of course, now I'm going to talk to Manon Bloch from Canada. I'm just going to switch languages for a moment, not because I'm rude, but just to make sure that Manon is okay. okay so far with what has been said? As well as okay, good. Do we know exactly what are the mechanisms on brains of young people when it comes to using social media? Do we know scientifically what happens? And on the other hand, do we have perhaps numbers of the situation in Luxembourg? How many people are perhaps mentally not well off because they use their phone more than 6 hours a day?
There aren't so much numbers in case of mental health with phones, social media, but the mental health is, the statistics are very yes, but I don't know if it's, we don't know many numbers if it's a connection with the internet. So I think it's after the pandemic situation, is the health, mental health has grown in this way, but there are no connections with the social media problems.
I think it refers to what was said before about projecting images also through social media. Is it perhaps there where mental health issues arise when all of a sudden a young person thinks that they're not corresponding to the image that other people are projecting on social media?
Yes, that's the way, yeah, that's true, but it's not the only reason, yeah.
What are other reasons?
I'm not. I'm working in Knapper, but I'm not in the position with the youth.
Okay, so it's more adults.
No, I'm not. I'm on the kids.
Okay.
From 0 to 12 years.
Yeah. Okay. 0. I don't think they have a phone yet.
Yeah, that's where it all starts.
Yes.
They see us.
Yes.
From little on. From and we are model role. They see us how we use the phones, how we use the tablets, how we use the digital screens, and we are the persons they how do you say imitate.
So projecting, yes.
Projecting,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, my English is not so.
It's perfect. I understood. You understood? Did everybody understand? Yes, because we can translate as well.
I'm nervous also.
If you're nervous, you may speak in Luxembourgish or another language and we'll translate. No worries about that. Jonathan Haidt is a 60-year-old social psychologist who believes that your child's smartphone is a threat to mental well-being. And in that context, Caroline, you recently gave a presentation at the European School, I believe, about the benefits of smartphones in schools. And of course, the opposite, they're non-benefits. The smartphones actually. Tell us more about that. So did this result from out of a study, or did you create a study? How did you go about it?
No.
I think you might be.
I'm a parent of 2 children, a 13-year-old boy and an 11-year-old girl. And when the debate came up in our house a few years ago, my son asked me for mobile phone. So I'm a social researcher, so I said, well, I'll look at the evidence. So I'm doing all of so this research is in my spare time. My day job is poverty research. So anyway, so I started reading the research, and then I said, there's absolutely no way we're getting a smartphone. But I didn't say like that. I discussed it with him, and we agreed that he would get a smartphone when he turned 13. So he did 2 years of secondary school without a smartphone.
Was he the only one?
I suppose, and I've had lots of discussions with lots of parents, and if you want a really hot debate, you just need to get parents together on this topic, because I spoke in the European school about the research, and there were several representatives from the students or union in the school, and I was really surprised that they all agreed, yes, there's too much smartphone use in the school, it's having a detrimental effect on our studies, etc. It was the parents association that was challenging what I was saying, and I suppose so. I was just looking again at the data before I came, the Be Secure survey, and 86% of 12-year-olds have a smartphone in Luxembourg. It's exactly, and then it's 93%, I think, by 13. So my son was in a minority, but he was the last boy in the class with no smartphone. And then there's a few times I did say to my husband, actually, maybe we will get him a smartphone because I feel terrible. He's so excluded. And then my husband would say to me, "We should just be talking about the research for the last 2 years." He said, "You said 13, you have to stick to 13." And that's what I did, but I find it extremely hard because he was excluded. But there's two issues that for the boys, it would show that the main issue is video games. So spend video games all the time. But for the girls, my 11-year-old daughter, now she started secondary school with no phone. But the main issue for girls is social media. And even though she has no phone, she still sees an awful lot of social media in school and TikTok or whatever. And I read Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, and like the studies are interesting because you can't say there's a cause and effect, but the research has looked at anxiety levels of young people from 2006 to the present day. And what was interesting, so when the mobile phones appeared, there was no negative impact on the millennials. They were using their mobile phones, they were connecting with their friends, and it was all very positive until the smartphone was introduced. And although there's not a cause, and they're saying there was a big jump in anxiety, depression levels across 35 countries, including Luxembourg, and they're saying the only explanation was the introduction of smartphones. And then I think it was interesting because there's been an awful lot of discussions about smartphones in school, and it's great that the Luxembourg government has introduced the ban on primary schools, but I'd like to see it go a lot further. And different schools have a lot of different policies, but I keep on hearing people say if there was something at the national level, you would see it rolled out. There's also the French school, Lycée Bourbon, has they introduced a pilot in September with the electronic tags, and just for the first years, and they're finding the results so positive. They're rolling it out now to the first 5 years, and I really think that schools need to introduce a reformed mobile phone policy. They say, not to use the word ban because that frightens people, but a mobile phone policy for at least the first 5 years. And there's two arguments that you always hear against it from the parents is safety, and you want to be able to contact their children. And like they have in St. George's, yes, you can bring your phone to school and not use it in school, so you can contact your parents when you're traveling. If there is an emergency, you can do like we did decades ago and contact the children through the school administration. And then the other issue that always comes up, we need to develop the children's digital competencies, which I 100% agree with. But there's so many ways they don't need their smartphone to develop their smartphone during the day. There's so much IT equipment in the school, other media things that like I still can't come up here one good argument why students should be allowed their phones in school between, for say, for the first 5 years at least.
fact that, I mean, smartphones as well as artificial intelligence, all of a sudden it was there in masses, but there's not really a manual that tells you, the do's, the don'ts, and we're kind of exploring and learning this as we use all these tools. No? Now, I think it's a fact that some people are very addicted to anything digital or social media in particular. How does that addiction compare to an addiction to, I don't know, illegal substances or gambling, or that's a question from Manon, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
Maybe.
Hopefully.
It's like in the video, she said,
Yeah.
sorry.
There's a problem with that button, I think.
Button and then
It's the red button.
near to the
and
lips. Hello.
Hello.
It's like in the film, it was with the dopamine. It's
Yes. Feelings of pleasure hormones.
They give pleasure and always pleasure, and it's like an addiction, like with the substance, because when you need something and you become it from the device or from the substance, it's that addiction, and it's the same process. But it's not a classification yet. You have the classifications with online gaming addictions and with the gambling addiction. They are classified in the addiction of the, how you say, there's a classification worldwide.
Okay.
So from, sorry? Yeah. ICD-10, ICD-11, massive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, we need the audience.
Yeah, you're interacting now. You're interacting.
That's when I'm nervous, I'm not finding the word. So, yeah.
You're doing very well.
But you can compare it with the addiction with substance because of the dopamine, and like I said,
Along those lines, it also has been proven that social media and technology in general does affect cognitive behavior within small children, yes?
Yes. Also,
what happens exactly? I think it's important to talk about this for a moment.
It's
What
important
happens
that
and what does it not enable for the future?
It's like Timothy said, we have to give them the opportunity to use it, but they have to learn how to use it. They have to learn from us how to use it, but like like the language, and at the right age. So from like Serge Tisserand, he said from 0 to 3 years, no devices. Okay, that's always a problem in families. They have more than one children. They have maybe a child from 2 years and a child from 6, 7 years. They can't. You can't do this when you have 2 children and one children is under age of 3. That's not possible. You can't say to the little one, so you have to get out now because the big one, he wants to see a video or look something on the tablet. But they have to learn how to use it, and not just the passive way, not just give them like a babysitter, not put them to the screens and they have just to look at it, but also the creative way, so that they learn how to create things with the screens, and not just and the concentration is also very important. Not you have an active concentration, you have a passive concentration, and the active you have to learn. But when you are young and you have always a babysitter like a tablet, and you don't learn the active concentration, so that's the first problem. Yeah.
Do you perhaps also make children and young people aware of what they're all the time they spend on social media? Or is that something that's difficult for them to understand?
We try, from Knapper on, we try to sensibilize the parents. So we are doing evenings for the parents to sensibilize what they are doing to their children when they are giving them too early tablets. So I think it's the responsibility from the parents to look how they grow up with them. They are, yeah.
But do not many parents think that it's the school's responsibility, maybe, to help?
Yeah, but that's not the.
So I'd like to hear that version of the story as well. Perhaps, people that say, well, that's part of your role to educate kids, you're sending them to school, so, you have to make sure that they're fit for whatever they need to be fit for.
I think this is where partnership is really essential. And I think with schools, one of the things that we really need to do right from the start, and I think we try to do right, and I'm sure that this is the case in the Luxembourg system as well, that because essentially education is a three-way kind of operation. You have parents, you have the school, you have the child, and all three have an equal role in making education a success for an individual. Because we can teach children all sorts of things, but if they don't learn it, then it's actually, you can stand up in front of a class and talk about whatever you like, and you can believe that you're teaching them. But there's a wonderful book, it's quite old now, written by a New Zealand researcher called The Hidden Lives of Children. He spent literally thousands of hours videoing and then analysing the video of classes. And he saw that children, and this is a long time ago, so before smartphones, children's concentration spans, even 20 to 25 years ago, were quite short. And children spend an awful lot of time in class thinking about everything other than the subject that they're meant to be learning. And I'm looking at some teachers in the audience, and I suspect you recognise that. We've been in that classroom. Because if we were working with, say, 15 to 20 to 30 children in a class, you can't be continually making sure that they're all thinking about Shakespeare when actually they're thinking about what am I going to have for lunch? What did she say to him? Did he kiss my best friend? Because that's what is going on in children's minds as they're growing up. And so for me, it's about that partnership that we need to know from students how we help them to really develop their concentration skills, because it is a skill and it is like walking, talking, and particularly things like language learning. And but also we need to work with parents. And I think the fundamental responsibility has to lie with parents, because actually they spend much more time with their children than children spend at school. So, and I think that's a major piece of education now that has fallen to schools, where, and I think I'm really grateful for the work that you've done with Jonathan Haidt and sharing that with children and with teachers. Fundamentally, we don't have parental buy-in. What we do will not work, because children are the primary role model, as you said, that any child is going to be their parents. And that may be a positive, engaged role model, and very often right up until 13 or 14, it's a really positive kind of role model. But even when children hit teenagehood and they become more oppositional, they become more defiant, or they become more rebellious, it's because they still value the role models that they see from their parents, but they're testing, they're trying to find their own boundaries and their own selves and their own way of doing things. So it's more important than ever to be a really good role model at that stage as a parent. And I think, and really to guide a child towards adulthood. Because really fundamentally what we want, I'm looking at the students in the audience. We want you to be happy, number one. I think every single parent that I've ever met in 30 years of teaching, the fundamental that they really want is I want a happy child. And that's a pretty complex thing to do. Then they might believe that comes through academic excellence or sporting brilliance or whatever it is. But I think fundamentally we want you guys to be happy, and you have to tell us how to do that. And particularly when a really confusing, complex,
Before we go on to Jörg and talk about how thanks Youth for Planet makes use of all this, I would like to talk a bit more about the synergies between the ministry, the schools, and also, for instance, the KNAPA, and then the KNEL, of course. How do you make sure you have your information, and how do you develop programs, because I know you do, to really help all the parties involved? I'll come around with the microphone. No, I like to stand up.
Question. I heard a lot of interesting things, and as you say, there is a program that's put in place by the ministry, and just like from the ministry when it comes to collaboration with all the actors outside the private schools, with our different associations. We also have the ministry mentor forum, which are a big part of Be Secure. So we have so many actors out there from terrain, and it's a really collaboration of how we come up with initiatives, things that make sense, and like I said before, to really evaluate the situation. So I'm just going to mention it here that this Monday there is the Aktionsplan Social Digital. Luxembourg Social Digital has a dual meaning social digital. We are definitely in the day and age of digital media, and that's not going to change. But also the word social digital is we want to be sure that children are safe within this digital media. So on one hand, we need to be sure as a Ministry of Education that the students have the capability, the competencies for the next 21st century competencies out there, so that they know how to work with the digital media. But then it's not just done through digital media. We can also use things like critical thinking. We want to create strong children in allowing them to critically analyze the information that they receive over digital media, that they can collaborate, creativity, communication. There might be another one. Again, so the Aktionsplan Social Digital has 4 pillars. The first pillar is called screen-life balance. So it's everything about, yes, screens, but how much screens is too much. And then again, we base our evaluation on TISA, who then divided everything up into age categories, saying 0 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, also primary school, then 12, and up, and 15 and up. And then to develop not just forbidding, but also creating alternatives. So analog alternatives. If you take away the iPhone, kids get bored. You need to have alternatives out there through additional sports, additional activities. In my school, there are so many, and I don't want to pick up all the time, but what I want to say, it's mainly through collaboration. And all the Elternabteilung, there's a big campaign out there, and this is open to anybody. If you're a parent, you can get in contact with the Elternabteilung. They will share with you this research stuff, but they will also see how can you do parental control on devices, mobile phones, but also with this box at home because of the TV cameras. We also speak about mental health of social media, but you also have the situations of reduced sleep, reduced concentration, and many other factors that are taking into consideration. I don't want to take all the speaking time, but I don't want to take the big collaboration that's being done. And again, also coming to, sorry.
No, please go on.
It's such a wide topic. Also, ban of mobile phone in high school. It is a topic. There is a regulation, but we leave it up to the schools to decide what they want to put in place, because the schools themselves have created their own initiatives. So it's not the ministry who's coming in and saying how they
also mentioned something I think very important before. You mentioned coding, of course, the importance of knowing and having the skill of being able to code. And I think that helps you to understand what's behind the interfaces, right? I think it's a way of perhaps creating a shield as a user.
Yeah, coding definitely helps you to understand how machines work. I myself am responsible for digital transformation, so coding is at the base and showing what digital can help us in doing our day-to-day activities and simplify things. It gives you time to concentrate on other more important things. And giving that skill set to the students is definitely of value. The digital environment is much easier. It goes beyond coding.
So we all think that the more we talk about all these things that need to be tackled and addressed and perhaps regulated, do you think that we're going to finally get somewhere where everybody will be able to use a phone and have the awareness of what it means to be online permanently? Do you think it's something that's forever going to perhaps slip out of hand? Maybe I'll address that question to Jo, because you studied the topic.
But actually, I don't think so. I don't think that this will get out of our hands. It has been, because we, as societies, find okay to terms with big companies exploiting our data and our thinking and the words we are saying, the photographs we are taking. Everything is analyzed for making money out of it. So basically, now it's only starting to become a bigger awareness about what's happening. They were so fast, so quick in doing this that we couldn't really, as a society, follow it completely. So it's on the other hand, we need to come to terms with this type of technology because, as I said, communication is our superpower, and we need the superpower and the digital, I call it the digital dividend of connectedness, where we sort of create solutions in high speed. And we need high speed solutions everywhere when we look at it in terms of creating a new economic system, a new energy system, come to terms with destruction of biospheres many places around the planet, and everything is overwhelming us. So when something is overwhelming us as individuals, then we need to come together, share this knowledge. Digital devices are very handy in doing this, and then by sharing this knowledge, make something out of it, come up with good ways out, solutions. Sometimes we call it solutions, sometimes it's just something where we come together and say, now let's do this together. In terms of learning, I just had yesterday the experience of students in India coming together to a CreatiVelo Festival from 12 universities. What happened is they came joined a challenge that was asking them to do something extraordinary out of normal life for students in India and all technologies. So they were asked to jump out of their comfort zone and say, no, I'm not only an engineer, I'm a whole person. I can make a song, I can talk to people in a very emotional way. I can make connections between my neighbors, between poor people in society, between rich people. So I can bridge the gaps that are there. I can break, we sometimes say, we break the bubbles. Now, people live in bubbles, so breaking the bubbles means that something new can happen. And I think this is absolutely essential to really come forward with new ideas and make this change that we badly need. however, we manage to create these bubbles by using these devices. And this needs training, of course, and it needs something that is, I would call it a freedom of thinking. And what the students did, they came together and created a purpose. So they were not just going there and said, well, okay, I have to learn this now. This is in my curriculum. No, they decided about the purpose they wanted to give their campaign. Then they started their campaign, and around this purpose, they created all these ideas together in teams. And so, for me, very interesting was one team was almost lost because they had applied to build the bike together and they wouldn't get the money to do it. So they were really disappointed, and then they were very clever. They elected a girl from the nearby School of Social Studies to become their team leader. And then this girl said, okay, so what's up? Let's define our purpose in a new way. Now we are not building any technology, now we are not using technology, not building bikes. Now we create something in the social sphere. So what they came up with were ideas how to communicate long range with people. So eventually they talked to 5,000 people. They collected 3,500 donations on their campaign in 4 weeks. So imagine now this created so much power, them coming together for a purpose, and even after frustrating experiences, they came up with new ideas, and they were the overall winners eventually. So it really brought them from complete desperation into something very beautiful.
That's a really beautiful example you just given us, but that's the whole purpose also of what you do with Youth for Planet. I mean, you recruit people around one cause. They all use their phone, but you tell them exactly what everybody's role is. And so they're learning skills, they're helping society, they're getting to know each other, they're interacting, which is really the complete opposite of what you normally do if you're in bed under the duvet with your phone until 3 o'clock in the morning watching movies. You're not supposed to.
Yeah, well, this is exactly what you saw the bikes upstairs, the CreatiVelo bike. This is basically a device where people, I call it the third space, create a third space where people can meet in peace and without paying for any money. No, they can come together and create a debate or a sphere of discussion. Being interviewed, learning something, seeing something on, see a video on the bike, get some new ideas, it could be very localized. So I think we as societies need these third spaces now and create them everywhere because we need so many local solutions against flooding, for example, against droughts, against bad influence from the sun. We're destroying our crops. So there's so much need for communication and finding solutions and coming together and find instant solutions and not rely on governments, not rely on climate conferences. Now they are very far away and they are heavily influenced by interests groups. No, we can come together as people on an individual basis, and this is something that we need to learn in school, how to get ourselves organized. But once we learn that, then we have this superpower that we can unroll to make things happen in a beautiful way. So that's my take on this.
And all that has a positive impact on mental health, of course, doesn't it? Yes.
Coming together, they are not isolated, they are not alone with their phone in the.
And it's also the fact that they know that as a group they're creating questions so far? Yes.
You want to come on
Yeah,
stage?
come on stage. It's more fun. Let's get you a cue.
We want to have you here.
Let's get you a cue. Yeah.
Taking number 9.
Take number 9. Before you come. They're not heavy, so you should be good.
All right, so thank you very much for having me on stage as a hot seat. But so my name is Natasha. I'm a family youth delegate of Luxembourg. So that means that I represent the views of young people on environmental topics. So this year we just were at COP last week, and so part of our mandate we do consultations with young people on many different topics. And so, of course, digital technologies is a big topic that often gets put into perspective and different perspective. And overall, I realized that there is, like you all mentioned, the importance of it and also the ways to include it, but we've just touched upon the limitations of it, but not the possibilities in a way. How can we engage them in the school system? In the Luxembourg school system, it's kind of you get the opportunity to maybe have a laptop or an iPad, and just here you go, figure it out yourself. How can we establish a kind of toolkit for children and youth to actually learn how to develop those skills, not just once in a workshop like be secure, but really throughout the whole school career. When they finish with education, how can we be sure that they have all of the tools to then go into either university or the workforce? How can we make sure that they know all that knowledge and not just kind of figure it out once you're there? So
that is a very important question. So this is something I explored quite heavily at my last school and have done throughout my career since I was really aware that technology was going to be was playing an ever more important role in adult life, and exactly that question. The thing that I think is most useful here is the Institute for Society for Technical Education in the States, ISTE. They have standards and they have a curriculum which runs through from about 5 or 6 from primary and elementary school in the States and right through to 18. And it provides a really helpful toolkit for us as educators in schools. It's a framework for what we need to teach. And not only that, it gives guidelines for educational leaders, it gives guidelines for teachers. These are the things we believe. And they've narrowed it down to kind of 6 areas. I think 2 or 3 of the things I've already mentioned. So citizenship, that's where the activism comes in, and that grouping together, getting how do we work together, but also that's communication. How do we use digital tools for good, for communication, to reach out and break down barriers. Then there was the computational thinking, the design thinking, and there are a couple of others which I can't remember off the top of my head. But I think it's a really excellent framework. It is quite American in its language and its focus, but I think we can adapt it in Europe, and I think we should. And if you look at that, it's looking at technology as a positive force for good, rather than something that is going to make people's lives narrower and more dangerous. And I think as well, I think there are unquestionable mental health dangers from technology. It's absolutely clear. Not just, I think Jonathan Haidt and there's Jean Twenge who works with, but also there's a global research company called Sapiens, which again has done the research. And if you look at mental health issues, it's not since the pandemic, it's since the introduction of smartphones, and it goes whoop. And if you're a girl, it goes whoop. You know, it's really so that it's absolutely clear that there are dangers. But I think through education, we can also provide that framework that this is how you use it for good, but also this is how you put it away. And you don't pick it up, and you don't spend your time under the duvet at 3 o'clock in the morning, which I know we all do. I don't think it matters whether you're 13 or 63. we're all subject to that. Yeah, let's link that to the Ministry in Luxembourg, of course. So very similar in the Luxembourg school system, and we have all digital sciences which we implement that we're also based on the framework of Russian
happening. Also, evaluations, at classes, of course, it's also being analyzed that schools have pedagogical processes and concepts in place in order that to go into such a route. And then you also have the aspect of teaching the teachers. So there's a whole environment out there with EFA and the script where we send our teachers to school in order to prepare them for the digital aspect. And then you also have ECM, which are specialists in the digital environment that go out to the schools because things can just not be very like that. And if you use, I don't know, Minecraft for coding, and we send out those specialists to the different schools in order to assist the teachers and hold the class. There again, it's a whole environment.
And I think you've realised yourselves also the ministry that the offer that you're putting out there really has a high response, especially the coding aspect. I think is very, very popular. Yeah, yeah. So how does that make Timothy feel? And think all that you're hearing, everything that's being put in place. You know, you said earlier on, think about all the things that you should be doing whilst you're spending your time on your phone, doing nothing or answering friends, which is a lot.
Well, I think, technology has a lot of possibilities.
Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you.
I'll leave this open for anybody else. Feel free to come back if you like.
As I say, that teaching teachers is very important because our students, teachers are the ones teaching us. They need to know how it works. They need to know how to use the digital skills. They need to have these skills. And if they don't, I see a lot of teachers, maybe me personally, I'm an IT student, for the context. And a lot of students from my class have to help teachers understand IT. And, well, even IT teachers. So, of course, it makes sense. We live in this digital world since we were born. Internet only exists for 50 years, and some of our teachers are a little bit older than that. So it makes sense that they wouldn't necessarily have the skill set. That is why I think it's really important. Teachers have to learn this. Also, for teachers who have been teachers for years, they have to put information. They have to get to know how to do this. And I know there are formations and they do courses to learn skills and learn how to use iPads. We barely use our Blackboard anymore. We use tablets and computers and everything. Not only in the class, also in a lot of other classes and different formats. So, yeah, getting to know how to use these machines, computers, computer mechanisms, very important. And especially social media. Because, well, as nurses, we use it to socialize very, very a lot of it. Some of it we spend 2 or 3 hours a day on. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can definitely be a bad thing, depending on how the algorithms come. And there are social media platforms that are designed to make use of everyone. That is what they want. They want to get money out of you. That is also something I have to think about. These are businesses, and they're the biggest businesses of the world. There's a reason for that. And they know how to make money out of us.
We're definitely going to address that further, but just to finish off this topic, I'd like you to pass the mic to Caroline because she's going to say that's what's missing for you or what's not missing out of a parent's perspective, everything that we've heard so far.
I agree with a lot of the comments. I think like it's a minefield for parents. And I used to say to children, you need a medical degree to become a teacher. I think you need an IT degree or something. But from the parents' perspective, it was mentioned, of course, showing a good example, which is challenging for us. You know, I have everything on my phone, like shopping lists, and or even when you're reading the newspaper, they don't see you reading the newspaper anymore, you're on your phone. And then always discussing with the children. I try not to be dogmatic about it, discussing, why I'm putting the restrictions that I am on my children's phones. And I think a really important point is, especially with the younger teenagers, they're still developing socially and psychologically. And when they're going through puberty, they have not developed self-discipline and self-regulation. And then what do? We give them the most addictive thing you could possibly do. And even, and people say, the children should know when to stop. They can't, and as you said, everything is designed for it to be so addictive. So it is trying to help the children manage that. So like what I do is we have and what the research would show as well, that to have no digital times and zones, so no electronics at dinner time, at homework time, at bedtime, no electronics in the bedroom at night time. Although my son has a phone, he would receive messages like he'd see the next day at 1 o'clock in the morning. There are children texting through the night, and then as you mentioned, the sleep issues. And I think parents, like we need to support each other. We have a more collective approach to this, but discussing with the schools, lobbying the government, and but the one thing I would say about the schools is because a lot of it does come back to the parents as well. The schools are in local parentis, and if somebody said, I was trying to do the calculations about they spend more time at home. Some days they spend more time at school, because if we exclude the time when children are sleeping, I was just thinking, on a long day, my children are at home awake 4 hours of the day, and they're at school 7 to 8 hours of the day. So the school is looking after my children longer than I am. So the school does have a huge responsibility in helping us support them. And then, for example, the schools, like even restrictions in the classroom just don't work, because there's children using their phones at break time and at lunchtime. It's having a huge impact on their social interaction, which again is so important, especially for the younger teenagers. And schools that don't have restrictions at break time, they're all just sitting around on their phones at lunchtime. I found out my son was playing on his phone during lunchtime, so he was told off. And I said, how can you eat your lunch if you've got your phone in one hand? And then he said to me, well, Mummy, you're lucky that I'm having my lunch, because lots of his friends don't have lunch because it interrupts their gaming. So
what does Kanapa say about this? Yeah, that's a terrible fact, though. So some young people are not having lunch because it interrupts their gaming.
Not healthy.
No.
Like, yeah, it's the first step. I'm not saying now that they're addicted, but it's the first step towards addiction. Like when you can do your school homeworks, you do your normally day with sports, with seeing friends, that's everything okay. It's addiction to develop addiction is a process. So yeah, when you do normal things, but that's, I would say, the first step towards the process of addiction, because when you don't eat, and maybe that's the first step, after you don't eat, you want to play the video game or the game on the smartphone. The second step is you don't see your friends anymore, I don't know. And then, yeah, the first sign, the first sign of an addiction is when the notes, the school notes are going down. That's the first sign towards addiction, because when they don't learn anymore, they play towards the night, they don't want to go to school anymore. The isolation. Yeah.
Timothy, have you met people like that in your surrounding that all of a sudden, you know, get depressed and can't function and really addicted to their devices?
I mean, I don't necessarily know every student in Luxembourg, so I can't really say what everyone is doing at lunchtime, but I know I'm eating.
That's good. We're happy about that.
Well, in my school at MHA, we have to come with I think the words are having a physical distance towards the classroom. Of course, every school is differently. For us, it's mostly focused on improving the phone during the class for, I'll see if the answer is the younger students. I personally, I don't have to do that. I don't do the phone because we are young. We have to do everything on and of course you take notes on your tablet and there are restrictions to that, which is good. There's always some kind of screen involved. And the lunch break usually could be the time where you're not. Of course, there's students that are they use the phone more than I do, personally. And one of my friends, we usually play cards to
Real cards.
not online. Real cards, physical cards. And I think large is important, of course. I think it's a
Do you know of a person in your near surrounding who's really slipped into something mentally bad
Well, I know a few people.
due to social
Due
media?
to social media for sure. They see the images of other people, they see other people being happy, other people sharing their great lives. And of course, we all know that it's not 100% of their life. But still, it makes us think about what we are doing, what we should have been doing, or what we could have been doing in our life. And I didn't go to the Bahamas in the holidays. I didn't do anything. It doesn't have to be necessarily a bad thing. And we always compare each other. And it's important. And it's what we do online. We see other people, we see what they're doing, and we try to draw parallels and try to compare us to each other. And well, we have to learn sometime, somehow. Comparison is often completely better. And this is why a lot of people get depressed. Why people well, they come into a lot of problems because of it. I can definitely say that there are students that every second that they have, they use their phone. Definitely. Because the averages have to be pushed up from somebody. And there are definitely also students that, well, I know a family that put a lot of thought to it, and they don't give their kids smartphones that have touch. So they have Nokia, old Nokia phones, yes,
Bricks.
and they use this on a daily basis, and it's very important for them. And they also are compared to their surroundings, and everyone has a smartphone with a touchscreen. And what are you doing? You know? But actually, I think these people are the smarter ones here, and they're the ones that they put more value to the social parts and to the real life parts of life. It's not, I think it's a good thing, especially when you see people gaming and eating. It's not good.
Definitely not.
I'm a bit mindful of our time because the next people wanting to go on stage.
Time is it?
Yeah, so, yeah, it's 2 minutes.
Already.
No, so
Already.
yes, yeah. So already. So I want to before we are set up for, for the whole life. I think when we think about what we are doing here in Luxembourg, in schools, in all the places where we actually work, we want to become our better self. We have to work on our better self. It's so easy to fall into the bad part of it. When you don't get up for work or you don't go up get up for school, of course you're not developing anything. But you have to learn how to become your better self, and this is what we learn in school and where we get supported. Second part is I think my conviction is that now we as societies we need to defend ourselves against structures, against systems that eat the individual up, basically, by using methodologies, by using technologies to really eat into our brain, into our lives, get our data, get everything out of us, and eventually it weakens us instead of becoming our better self. We are really becoming our worst self. So when we see elections like the Trump election in the US or in other parts of the world, we're facing elections in Germany very soon. We see that people are going for the worst situation. They are fighting not against becoming depressed. They are fighting for a person that is actually helping them out of this situation by just pretending to do it. It's a force. We know that, but still people fall in for that. So, in order to develop our better self, I think we need to define new structures as a society that allows us, for example, schools, to make schools places for collaborative learning, not individual learning, not individual exams, collaborative learning, so we can learn how to work together on a common purpose, develop a purpose that is stronger than just the purpose that comes from the outside by curriculum or by what professors think.
Which is exactly what Youth for Planet does.
Yeah, well, exactly. And so my demand is really when I see climate conferences happening where nothing is being resolved. It has a reason, of course, because people want to continue their business, but nothing is resolved. And people, especially young people, are getting so frustrated because they feel they are powerless to make these changes. And I think we as adults, as teachers, principals, ministers, people who actually organize and make society happen, have to create structures that allow these young people to become aware of what their real powers are of communication, of making change happen. So, just a last example here in Luxembourg, we have a few schools in Esch. I know 3 of them that have started to reserve 1 day a week, 20% of the school time, for creating new ideas for a better life. The Friday, or it's free day. And what it means that at least 1 day a week, children are allowed and are empowered to actually think about their own future and what they want to do next, or maybe what they want to do now here, and what they have to learn in order to do something in the future. So I think this is so important to give this freedom to our young people now and do everything as from the perspective of adults to support them to be able to do that. And that's my conviction that we need to do that. And now we only have 4 or 5 years to really change our energy system, to tackle biodiversity issues. Otherwise, we will have chaos and hunger and everything is coming from the corner. I see it happening. I'm connected with people in Africa. I see it happening there already. Floods. There's this university I'm working with this was cut off electricity. 45,000 students without electricity. How should they learn? But they cannot afford to pay their bill. So this is happening at the same time. So I think we need, for all these structures, we need to come up with solutions, and especially from the rich countries like Germany, Luxembourg, European countries, great ideas how to make these things happen on a new level and a different level, and use the ingenuity and the creativity of our young people to allow that to happen. That's my sorry. That's what I'm trying to say.
Thank you very much.
I did put it in the
for participating in this discussion. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Very engaged young people went
It just goes so fast. Yeah, so fast. I mean, it was difficult to see where do I go, where do I start, where is it going? Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
I would like to
had a way of finding the right words for me. And he knew what to say to the media to get them to spoke about him. So at a certain point, when negotiations were about to break down on finance, before, she said, you know, I'm coming out and everyone wants to ask me for details, but I just want to go to quit, right? So it's like, at some point, listening to music and someone asks him what he listens to, and I think kids better have my money while you're young. Anyway, but he always knew what to say. And he was also super approachable. Like, a few of us over the texting on Instagram, it was just that, like 30 years old, 31, something like that, he's heading to litigation.
So it's helpful to believe that we're podcaster, super strong, just the podcast, the number one podcast. He's also like that. I'm no longer on Twitter, but
When did you get back? Sunday evening, and then Monday was school. Ooh, not much sleep. Especially since from Saturday to Sunday, that was the final plenary, and we spent like an hour because it lasted till 5.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And then we had to get home and squeeze an hour of sleep in there, and then pack and then go to the airport. So it was, and all the excitement and everything. Exactly. And it was impossible to sleep on the plane because of all that.
Of course, yeah.
Days. Exactly. Yeah. It was worth it. Was it your first call? Very special. Have you ever been?
No. I forecasted from a distance, but yeah. Well,
No.
yeah. Luckily and unluckily, there's going to be lots to come.
That's another thing Panama guy said. He said, hopefully I never have to come to one of these again.
Oh, you see, well, you see, yeah. Wishful thinking. Yeah. In Panama.
But there were mixed outcomes.
From the people you spoke to
them,
them.
no, I mean the texts that were.
Oh, yeah.
You know, yeah. I think particularly the gender and climate text was a bit of a disaster.
Yeah.
Because those negotiations broke down twice, I think. And then, because essentially the year before, a few years before, everyone had agreed to put inclusive language into it. So language would include not just women, but like, etc. So phrases like women are
I'm hearing the international vocabulary message. There should be sound.
Well,
Yeah, the others trying to figure it out.
Now,
So yeah, I'm in the international section, but essentially we went there as a group of young people from Welsh different schools. We had Isabella Schumann, we had there was supposed to be two from Vietnam, and there was one from Irish. And it was an initiative by students from Isabella Schumann, especially Julian Veloso, and he spearheaded the project. And essentially, it was to bring young people to COP, and our job there was to speak to civil society, to speak to some negotiators and stakeholders, and especially to broadcast that back. So we made a lot of content. We did that on social media. We also got it broadcast on this channel called We Do Not Have Time, and they're the biggest climate broadcaster there is. And yeah, that was essentially our job. It was speaking and then making the process more transparent.
Actually, elaborate your narrative. Did you do that? Did you?
I would like to now invite His Excellency Barayev to take his seat.
Okay, so just some context. The last video was just the conference, and His Excellency Barayev is Mukhtar Barayev, who was the president of COP29, and he's the Minister of Energy for Azerbaijan, and he's a massive supporter of fossil fuels and oil, just like most of the Azerbaijan government and at the conference, so that kind of set the scene for what was going on in Baku. Yeah. We're in the middle of asking me a question for this.
Lots of questions. Look, do you want a microphone? I think, yeah, it should be best. Thank you for opening up discussion for us. Yes. Not leaving anyone out. This is the microphone.
Is the little orange light here on?
Yes,
No,
now
it doesn't. The light on means it's muted. The
Oh,
light
no,
on the orange
no,
one. Okay,
it's okay. It's on. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
So, it was your first call, we were saying, yes. And so you were saying that you arrived there and that your role basically was to speak up about certain issues. And I was asking you about the narratives. How did you develop them? Was it, group work where you said, okay, we have all these topics we'd like to talk about, we need to narrow them down. How did you go about that?
A lot of which topics we chose to speak about were the ones where we happened to be at the right place at the right time. Breakthroughs happen everywhere at COP, so it just matters about which room you happen to be in where something interesting happened. And that's often what we spoke about. A lot of the decisions about where we would choose to be the next day happened at around midnight back in the apartment, huddled around the table in the living room, trying to figure out what we do, what we wanted to say, which events were best for the messages we wanted to spread, so which events could be relevant for youth inclusion, events that could be relevant to whatever the big news was from the day before.
You have main topics that you said, okay, we're going to focus on those.
So at the beginning, not really. We had one main topic, which was young people, youth inclusion. So we focused on events that spoke about that. But we found that a lot of those were largely performative. So on the day to really stop going to those and we focused more on what was going on in negotiations. The renegotiations we covered the most were gender and climate ones, the ones on the UN consensus last year, so the text that we built on that, and the NCPG, so the financial negotiations.
Did you feel that there was any progress made while you were there? Did you feel that during the debates that you were seeing some progress as to your topics?
It depends on what you define as progress. I mean, like we said, the gender and climate negotiations were a little bit faster and things went backwards, actually. In the finance negotiations, the developing world was asking for 1.3 trillion in core finance, but in the end it was only 300 billion. They committed to eventually get to 1.3 trillion, which wasn't at all what they were looking for. But it was a significant improvement off the 200 billion figure that had been floating around the day before. And the day before that. So in terms of progress, there was progress, but that's only because our starting points were so terrible to begin with. And then with the mitigation price on the UAE consensus is famous because that was the decision, that was the first decision where fossil fuels were acknowledged as a main cause of climate crisis. And it's where it was decided that we should transition away from fossil fuels. So that was the main breakthrough the UAE was the use of that phrase, transition away. There was initially phase out, but that wasn't accepted by some petro states. So in the end, we went to transition away. And in the text this year, about last year's text, there was a phrase that was added that said, this shall be implemented by states keeping in mind their national circumstances. And that phrase is actually very important because it essentially means that any state that says, oh, our national circumstances don't allow this, which they can say whenever they want, they can just choose not to transition away. But the really good news from Henry Knight is that that text actually failed. I think it's the only text that we heard. Well, it said decision delayed, but given that the presidency of the next COP is Brazil, and they indicated that they wouldn't bring that text up again, it's essentially dead. So that's very positive. It means that the language that was going to water down our transition away didn't get through. And that was allowed to happen because right before that text we passed the finance text, and that was very controversial. The presidency kind of forced it through. And there was a lot of anger in the room and a lot of tension, and then that kind of gave the momentum to the forces that opposed that second text to bring it down.
I've never been to a COP. Has anyone in the audience been? Yes.
Okay.
obviously. Oh yeah, okay, so a few people have. So, but the majority hasn't. So explain to us, I mean, I'm sure it's very buzzing and everyone wants to raise their voice and stress their point and get their point across. How does that work within that buzz?
So I'm sure if you haven't been there and you imagine it the way I imagined it, is everyone going into a room, sitting around a big round table and discussing climate change. And that's not how it works at all. There were 200 rooms in that conference center, and each one of them had a different, very specific topic that a few races of people were negotiating about, and all of that was happening in context of hundreds of side events organized by civil society, press conference organized by whoever wanted to give press conference. And it's a lot more hectic and a lot more split up than you'd imagine before you go there. And there's no, the way the media portrays it is they often latch on to one set negotiation on the service finance. And the way they cover it essentially sounds like that's the only thing that's really going on there. So you can imagine them all talking about that, but there's just so many different things happening. And trying to keep track of where what's going on and what's happening. And I don't know how else we in the industry certain facts, but it's something that we kind of have to figure out for ourselves where we end up.
All right, so good afternoon, and I think we're just going to start with a short introduction of actually who we are sitting here on the stage, because I feel like we just jumped into the conversation that was happening earlier and never really introduced who we are and what we actually do. So just to give a bit of context, so I'm Natasha. I'm one of the two climate youth delegates of Luxembourg. That means that we represent the views of young people in Luxembourg in the delegation. That means in the delegation from the ministry going to COP and attending the conference. So for this year, it was actually the first time that young people were part of the delegation, which is a huge step. That also means that we can pave the path forward, how to include youth in the delegation. So for us, it was, we also went to COP, and I'm going to let my co-delegate introduce himself as well. So I'm Frida. So as she said, we have platform to bring the youth in a different way to them. So like we bring in the same point. And for us, personally I follow more developed social science competition. Well, Natasha was chosen through an online site that open call. And then so for us, it's mostly bringing in the youth voices. I also been a part of policy negotiation track, which is around population with Andrew Brown. And that was really a great experience to be able to see the background of negotiators and to just be a part of it and have the opportunity to bring in my voice. Yeah, and then before that, we conversations. As she mentioned in the panel before, we there we got some points. For example, we started to have youth education, biodiversity, and youth having a platform. Thank you very much for that. And I also think what is a crucial point is that going to COP, be prepared and actually ask young people what are the points that we should touch upon and also bring to the delegation. What are the points that are currently lacking or what are the points that we would like to see in the negotiation? I think that is like a crucial part of youth inclusion, really to not only have our personal views and values, but also the ones of young people. So we went to different schools, we went to organize a few events where we then engaged with young people. There was a lot of awareness raising, but at the same time also getting those critical points that you mentioned. And for us, COP was a bit different than the action team because we were part of the delegation, but we were both following different negotiation tracks. So the way that we split them up is that we really decided what tracks are interesting for young people and which tracks we want to really push for some points within. And I think that was how Frida and I have then decided different points. So for me, I followed the Just Transition Work Program. That means it's
it was a lot of establishing a basis of negotiation. So just establishing first steps. And I feel like our outputs from COP were very different because of the negotiations that we were following. Depending on what room you were sitting, you were having a different perspective on it. I think that is also the crucial part of COP, is that depending on where you sit and what you listen to, it gives a very different atmosphere. And so it's sometimes very overwhelming to get this overall understanding of what's going on at COP, when you're only able to be at one place at one time. I think that is also the beauty of having the action team as well, that we were able to collaborate together and to be at more places than one. And I think that was a good point. So if you would like to continue with yeah.
Like since we're the first year, we also were able to partner with other developers in the world. One side is European developers. For example, we have a together as a coordination. And so then we spoke about kind of our priority in relation to NCCG and also in relation to the Commission program. And then also the leadership program, which is where youth from all around the world come together. They learn how to negotiate and also
Some context, NCBG stands for New Connected Quantified Goal on Climate Finance. There was a previous goal for $100 billion per year collected, because I wanted to quantify it because we need the number and the goal speaks for itself. I think what Natasha said about the young people in everyone's was super important. We didn't manage to see so many people in person. We did send out Google Forms and people surveys in 2000. That's another part of the call, because we have many protests and actions, and we didn't participate in those because we're association with because it's a bit sketchy. But those were a super important part of the call, and especially in the last few days, they got really, really massive virtual energy conference when it looked like the goal might essentially fall through.
So for anyone who has not been on COP, as we're trying to set the scene and really, with all these images, kind of understand how the dynamics happen, basically as Maxine mentioned, that there are negotiation rooms and all the sign-ups, where mainly civil society takes place or like participate. And this year there's over 65,000 people attending COP. 65,000. That's an enormous number of people getting together and trying to find common grounds and discuss on the future of our planet. And I feel like that was also one of the major points for us, is really realizing the size of the conference. That on one hand you have negotiators, but on the other hand there's civil society. And that unfortunately in such a huge setting, both don't collaborate as often that we actually thought. There was this big gap of urgency of the matter. So negotiations were happening pretty slow and there's not really much movement. And on the other side, inside of it, there was a lot about the urgency of climate action and the importance of really including everybody in this in the action, not only the ones who are able to do so. So I feel like that was a main point for us, is really realizing this huge gap between the negotiations and
between the negotiation and the side events happening alongside each other, but not together. So I think that is really one point, is like such a big venue of what's happening, but how do we include the views and values of all, of not only civil society, but also of negotiators. And through, so you did through your broadcasting system, and for us as youth delegates, we have this project that we called, we asked this question: how do you see the world in 2050? So the idea behind it was ask young people from around the world and also in Luxembourg how they envision the world in 2050. What are their perspectives, and also then relating back to the a lot of the policies in place right now, always looking to 2050. A lot of the strategies of decarbonization matters always towards 2050. And how can we then link up the youth perspective and the actual policies in place, and how can we then find common grounds between the two? Because if there is no world by 2050, then our policies by then would not make any sense if we're not taking the adequate measures for it. So I think it was a way of raising awareness, but at the same time also getting the perspective of young people, how they see the world in a bit more than 25 years.
At the beginning, you mentioned that you interviewed lots of other students, on their topics, their needs. What happens now that you've come back? Are you going to revert back to them with feedback, report, or informed discussion? Or what happens now with the information you brought back from back home?
Yeah, exactly. So we're right now in our part of the return phase. So we're now back in Luxembourg, and we're using the knowledge that we've got from COP and also the opportunities that we realize where there is the need for youth inclusion. So we've identified that there's two major points that we're going to work on. The first one is establishing a platform for youth inclusion in policymaking. So really establishing a way for young people to be able to raise their concerns in policymaking on a national but also international level. So to really include young people not only in a specific time frame or at one specific event, but really throughout the whole throughout the process. And then the second point is climate education. So it was mentioned a few times that there's this need, but at the same time, the Luxembourg school system does not include in their curriculum. So we're trying to right now find a way to include that in a more holistic and impactful manner. So that is the two main projects that are coming up in the future where we're going to be working on, and then additionally also talking with young people and sharing the experience of our program. I think one last part which might not have impact is just working on our program and working on ways to make us more engaged nationally and real-life
So on our side, we keep posting on social media, so you can really catch us on social media as we can. We also make sure sort of frequency where we meet with as many decision makers as we can, actually for meeting with them to March, and just in terms of what comes next, a very important thing for our implementation of what comes next is learning from the people we met. I think there were some pictures in the last slideshow of our meeting with the delegates for the young people from Norway, and that was the most insightful meeting I think we had. So what they have in Norway is they have this children's panel on climate change, and that runs the whole year long, every year, and every year they send a delegation to COP. And they spend the rest of the year preparing a report on youth opinions and youth opinions on climate change. And then presenting it to their parliament, to their prime minister, to their ministers and their government. And I think when you're talking about a framework for people in Norway, that would be a fantastic thing to base it over. You see that there are people who are doing a lot better than we are. There are countries that are doing a lot better than we are, and it's really important to hear from our steps.
Is that something that you're going to talk about to Claude Maish and suggest to get better organised? What are the key takeaways that you're going to talk to them about?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're definitely going to mention that because not only do we find it interesting that Norwegian people explicitly asked us to try and do the same thing here, because they're trying to turn it into a global initiative where in the end we get kind of like an IPCC but for children. So we're going to integrate that with the Prime Minister and with Claude Maish, and we've already raised it with some witness to the Minister of the Environment. And that is our core takeaway there, that there are frameworks that work to get young people involved in fighting climate change.
you not meet Serge Davis in Baku?
We did, yeah, and we interviewed him, which will be coming out soon. We're just working on the editing. We spent about an hour with him in the Lux Retaliation offices. Part of it was on record, part of it was off the record, and yeah, we had some very insightful conversations. Also with the rest of the delegation, the people who are actually doing things and the other negotiators. That was a highlight, definitely. And yeah, but we found that it was also a bit tough for the Luxembourg delegation because in conferences like this, the European Union also negotiates on behalf of its members. So then figuring out how to incorporate national and international European negotiating processes.
Do you think that the fact that it was this administration's first COP, would you see that as an advantage for you, or is it a disadvantage? I mean, is there room for you, to stress even more what your important points are, or does it backfire?
I think a lot of the important decisions and the important calls and negotiations were made by members of the civil service. So there's a lot of continuity in the civil service industry environment, especially for the last administration as well. So not all that much change in the industry itself and the support his team, so people chose to have around him. We found he was very open in his interactions. I can't speak hypothetically as to what it would have been like with the foreign minister, but we found that he was open and ready to listen to information and other.
Do you think it would be a solution that maybe one of you would work as an advisor, or the three of you, to the minister, to the ministry?
So that's actually exactly the point of the Parliament delegate. So basically that we are representing the views of young people, but we're also advising the delegation. So we're there alongside them and also as part of the delegation. So not, of course, independent, but still pushing those views from within. So that's exactly the whole idea of the program, is to get that close contact and also to be able to influence and also give the inputs of young people. And just on the previous point, I think the opportunity we have this year is that it was not only COP29, but it was the 3 COPs happening this year. So under the Rio Convention of 1992, there are three conventions. So one on biodiversity, one on climate change, and one on desertification, which is happening starting on Monday in Riyadh. I think this was really the opportunity this year is to have not only the discussions on climate change, but also include the considerations on biodiversity and desertification. Because after all, we need synergies between the three conventions, because everything does have an impact across the three and not only on one specific part. So I think that is really the benefit that we have this year of really having all three conferences and also seeing the synergies between them and seeing how we can relate information from one to the other. So I think that is a real value in this year.
Here's another question, if that's okay. Do you feel like you were incorporated in the delegation? Do you feel like your influence were, do you feel like there was openness for what you have to say and your advice was taken and
So for this year in this delegation, I believe that we did. However, Luxembourg, as you mentioned earlier, we're negotiating on as the EU. So Luxembourg has a limited impact within as the whole negotiations happening at COP. So I feel like that is where we have as delegates the way forward for the next year. We'll also see how can we then really have a strict timeline of where and when to include those considerations. Because in our specific case, because it's the first year, it was challenging to see how can we then impact the EU position, because that is what is happening before COP and then not at COP itself. So I feel like that is where using this as like the first year, moving forward and really then identifying the key moments where there is still room for youth participation, because often it is then too late. And it's also all about information sharing, really knowing when and what time to give the input.
was there a lot of coordination between the delegates in the United States? Talk about how things
Yeah, so because
because so for us in Luxembourg, it is the first year, but on the European level, there are some programs, like youth learning programs that have been there for more than 10, 15 years. So there are really well-established programs, and that is also the strength that we have as youth and also as the EU, is that we can then work together, and countries with more capacities can then together establish. That's what we've done. On a European level, we were able to collaborate on a common youth position, which was then also presented to all the member states during one of the EU coordination meetings. So that was also where us as young people from as youth delegates were able to then raise the points and actually critically engage with them. And also we got a lot of positive feedback from a lot of the delegations from EU member states.
That's the last question. Do you think that Luxembourg has a disadvantage because of a smaller voice, or on the contrary?
So I think it doesn't matter how big the voice specifically, it's also how you use it and what you decide to say. I think because negotiations are really new, the size difference isn't really relevant. In terms of small voices, what we found is that it caught some of the smallest nations have the loudest voices. So groups like the OSIS, the Association of Small Island States, they were very vocal, and they were very vocal because for us, the climate crisis is this faraway thing that maybe one day will kill us. But they're sinking now, right? And their homes are being destroyed now, and that's happening today. So it's not particularly the size of the nation that matters, and obviously there's an impact in international powers and soft power, but decisions should be made collectively by consensus. So that meant that everyone could be heard to a certain extent, and that a lot of smaller states often had the loudest voices.
Well, and I have full confidence that you will raise your voices, the three of you. Thank you very much, and good luck for your upcoming meetings next week with the ministers. Any more questions from you? Yes.
So on Friday, the Court of Auditors in Luxembourg warned the Luxembourg state that they don't have a plan B to replace the business as usual fossil fuel sales and cigarette tourism to support the Luxembourg economy. And I'm really curious because your generation can really flip the script and say you can be really the Silicon Valley of climate solutions and all of the collateral benefits that will accrue being thought leaders. And I'm really curious when I meet Putin, when he was asked less than a month ago at the Luxembourg Times Luxembourg Board conference for a 1-year sort of look back about the New Deal and his promise of a Marshall Plan for the New Deal, he started to answer that question by denying he ever asked for that. And so I'm really curious, how would you be effective? Do you have a plan yet? Do you have a storyboard yet to make him say, hey, look, here's path A, here's path B, which do you want for Luxembourg? Because the youth want, an A.
So I think your question goes more towards the action team, but I think for us as county delegates, so before going for GPOP, we met with the Prime Minister and also met with the Minister of Environment, and for us it was really raising this point of youth participation. So raising the point of how can we have youth included within the decision making. And I think it was also raising on the point of right now investing on climate change should not be that it is annoying or that it's a burden, but we should really look at the benefits and the possibilities. If that is in a way of job creation, but also how can we use the current situation to then make the best out of it? Because right now, also the messaging around it is kind of just saying that it's annoying, let's care about this one, it's an actual issue. And I feel like that is the wrong messaging, and we need to change the narrative
about why Netherlands is spending billions of euros every year on fossil fuel subsidies and they don't have money for green subsidies. And she said, yeah, because it would be very painful to pay those out and a lot of people lose their jobs and the economy will take it. And the reality is that that's absolutely true, and that's a reality that's contended with. Like you said, that's Europe doesn't have a plan B for the city of tourism and all the fossil fuel benefits to the economy. So initially, when things get phased out, there will be a hit, which means that in terms of political incentive, it's very difficult for politicians to say, okay, I'm going to do this, and possibly what route is going to do anyway. It's very unlikely that a politician will actually choose to do this, because of course green growth is possible, we've seen that green growth is possible, it's happening in many places at the moment. But for us to transition to green growth, we will have to cut investment into a lot of sectors which aren't green, and that will pull growth, it will pull suffering, and that's horrendous. But we have to remember that the alternative is that the climate crisis gets worse and worse and worse and worse, and far more people die, and far more jobs are lost because more states or the economy or companies or anything involved. But it's a very difficult decision to make politically, which is why I think that in terms of pressuring politicians to make that decision, one meeting that we're going to have next week isn't going to be enough. Lobbyists, pressure groups, that's not going to be enough. They've been trying for years, nothing's happening. I think that those who ever came to properly green policy in 2019 when there were the mass climate protests by young people all over the world, in Europe as well. We saw the European Parliament switched to suddenly speaking a lot about green language and started to say the green legislation, and now they've stopped because that mass movement is gone and they're rolling back green legislation and prioritizing farmers instead of farmers' interests. It's very important. But I think we saw there that the only thing that's really properly going to push green policy forward is mass movement and mass pressure, and that's why for us it was incredibly important to raise awareness so that people would hopefully join our polls and start supporting that as well. Because one meeting and one group, that's not enough. Everyone has to start saying something, or nothing's going to happen. Putin and other politicians have to be put in a situation where they'll lose more votes if they don't do something like climate.
Yeah, would you like to say something?
I have a lot to say, but I'm not in the right age group.
Okay, well.
Actually, I think we should wrap this up. We cannot. I clearly got the message. You have to put a plan. How do you deal with these politicians? Because they are, like you said, they are in a very difficult situation. No?
And you would
What
probably
was
help
it
them
in
a lot.
2022? It's almost difficult, impossible to get out of it. And I think by sheer force of by people, we can make happen that they start these changes. And it's not true that there is no possibility to. If you have a plan, then you can transition smoothly. It's only a question of how you join and follow up the plan.
Yeah, exactly. And also just touching on the last point that we made when we met with the Prime Minister was that there's a need for youth action. So there's a need for complete measures to include young people and not only as a consultation process once, but we follow through with it. And I think that is what is right now up for the next few months is we need to elaborate this idea of how can we create a platform for young people and also and have the benefits not only for society as a whole, but also the benefit of inclusion.
I think the big reason why mass movements ended up falling, without is because young people they weren't making a difference, and they were out in the streets every Friday, every week, working day in day out, trying to get difference, and so nothing was happening. Something was happening. There was a big jump in party voter share and environmental policy in Europe, but it was happening very, very slowly. So I think two things need to happen. First, we need to speed up, but also we need to take another chin and realize that things politics is slow. Often it's too slow. It's frustrating slow, and it sucks and it's horrendous. But we have to tough it out because if we don't, the older boys
And you, of course, need to find ways. Of course, we need to invite more people to be part of it, and it can only happen when the feeling is there. Oh yes, we can achieve something. It's happening outside, and I think it has to happen in the streets, because then you come together with people, with real people, not on phones, but on real people, and talk to them and say, okay, how do you feel about this? Let's do something together.
I also really do think, yeah, if they get the confidence and self-awareness or even closed-mind, and they become advisors, on a regular basis over a certain amount of time. Yeah. Well done.
These pictures actually what you have achieved in this short time. Alone. Very rewarding. So we are going to close this. We have to prepare something, some kind of video show, just to wrap up what we have been doing with this planet over the last years. One reason we do that is that Andre, who's been with us for such a long time, will leave us for some personal reason, and he has put together this presentation, and I think we should really watch it and cherish him for being with us so very long, and so vividly on very important issues.
That Rona Khan, one of the pictures.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you meet her?
We did.
She's an amazing lady.
I think we have an interview with her as well. Also, I think there's so much video editing to do.
She's unbelievable.
She is incredible. So, for some context, Runa Khan is the founder of an NGO called The Friendship, and they do a lot of work, especially in Bangladesh, on humanitarian work.
They have humanitarian boats, and they've actually created awareness within the communities that women who are having problems delivering their babies or people that have medical issues can all go to the boat and get free health care. And it all works with a beam from a satellite. And a lot of capacity of that beam comes from SES based in Luxembourg. Yeah. She's supportive,
Yes, in Luxembourg.
Yeah.
And what is her name?
Runa Khan. She's the daughter of a Brahmani, and she decided to leave all that behind her and help the Bangladeshi people by creating this medical care system.
One of the people in our team was in Bangladesh, so with Friendship. Volunteering.
It's a really interesting experience.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I think we want to play this now because we have only 10 minutes left.
Go, push the button.
Yeah.
Schlimmste Verschmutzung eher ist in unserem Außenhof, Pizzen oder auch Zigaretten oder so, was definitiv in einem Außenhof gehört.
Ich habe da ein Projekt, das die ganze Schule machen könnte. Ich habe auch mit dem Hausmeister gesprochen, der gesagt hat, man könnte große Plakate machen, in einer Zeit, die Musik der Schule jeden Morgen ist. Und es ist auch seine Arbeit, immer wieder sauber zu machen. Und das Gefühl hat, es einfach selbst hinbekommen, dann diese kleine. Auf jeden Fall. Ich hoffe, ich komme nochmal zurück. Warum denn? Das war total interessant. Ich habe selbst viel gelernt und ich glaube, die Kinder, denen hat es richtig Spaß gemacht. Die man Filme schneidet, die man richtig filmt. Richtig cool. Was meinst du, was die sonst schon gelernt haben in dem Projekt? Ja, auf jeden Fall immer was mit dem Thema zu tun hat. Wie wenn man Plastik braucht, ist es verrottet, wie man ein Interview korrekt führt, wie man Fragen ausstellt und so weiter. Also wir schicken die Deutsch zum Beispiel.
Ja, okay. Und meinst du, man könnte sich noch ein Projekt in jedem Schulfach durchführen oder gibt es spezielle Schulfächer, wo das am besten geht?
Ja, also Sprachen oder auch Nebenfächer wie Geografie und so weiter ist es halt leichter, denke ich, wie jetzt so die Mathe. Das fällt mir jetzt nicht direkt ein. Aber dennoch kann man überall Lernvideos immer erstellen, selbst erstellen. Und ja, ich glaube, das wäre eine ganz coole Sache.
Hey, vielen Dank fürs Interview.
Dankeschön.
Und danke fürs Mitmachen.
Ich trinke Wasser aus Plastikflaschen. Ich trinke daneben eigentlich immer durch Rutschen aus den Glasflaschen. Danach tun wir es nochmal zum Wasserschücher.
Obwohl es immer beliebter wird, Leitungswasser zu trinken, greifen die meisten dennoch immer zum Mineralwasser in Plastikflaschen. Ungefähr 80% der luxemburgischen Bevölkerung trinkt Wasser aus der Flasche. Jedoch sind die Menschen sich oft nicht bewusst, welche Konsequenzen dies für die Umwelt mit sich bringt. Jeder Einwohner Luxemburgs verbraucht laut einer Studie ca. 100 Kilogramm Plastikmüll im Jahr und nicht alles davon wird recycelt. Weshalb ist Mineralwasser etwa besser als Leitungswasser? Während Mineralwasser extra Wege zurücklegen muss und abgefüllt werden muss, wird Leitungswasser sofort von lokalen Quellen geborgen. Außerdem könnte man mit dem Trinken von Leitungswasser enorm viel Geld sparen. Das Wasser aus der Flasche ist nämlich viel teurer. 2 Liter Mineralwasser kosten im Durchschnitt 1 Euro. Diesen Preis bekommt man 200 Liter Leitungswasser, also ist Leitungswasser rund 500 Mal billiger. Vielleicht stellen sich manche jetzt die Frage, wie man sich denn eigentlich sicher sein kann, dass dieses Wasser auch sauber ist. Deshalb haben wir in unseren Gemeinden nachgefragt. Tatsächlich ist Leitungswasser das am strengsten kontrollierte Lebensmittel überhaupt, denn der direkte Wasserversorger darf nur Wasser liefern, das Spendennormen einhält. So wird die Wasserqualität auch regelmäßig überprüft. Dieses Wasser wird aus 2 Drittel Oberflächenwasser und 1 Drittel Quellenwasser gewonnen. Dieses wird dann in die Wassertür geleitet und dort gelagert. Hier wird das Wasser gefiltert und gereinigt, danach fließt es in die einzelnen Haushalte. Und wenn man gern Sprudelwasser trinkt, aber auf Plastikflaschen verzichten möchte, gibt es eine einfache Lösung, den Wassersprudler. Dabei wird auf Knopfdruck CO2 in eine Glasflasche mit Wasser gefüllt. Er ist einfach und schnell zu bedienen und in einer Kartusche kann man 60 Liter Wasser sprudeln. Auf Dauer spart man sehr viel Geld und der Wassersprudler ist außerdem umweltfreundlich.
Was ist das? Ja, eine stinknormale Banane, was ist das Problem? Ja, eine stinknormale Banane, genau das ist das Problem. Oh Mann, dieser Fiasko. Die Banane zählt zu den beliebtesten Früchten der Welt. Sie wird zum Beispiel in Ländern wie Lateinamerika oder der Karibik angebaut. Das große Problem beim Handel von Bananen ist, dass große Unternehmen viel Macht über den Bananenmarkt haben und immer reicher werden wollen. Und das auf Kosten der Menschen, die auf den Plantagen arbeiten. Diese Menschen werden oft sehr schlecht bezahlt. Also kommen aus
Außerdem hat es nur wenige medizinische Unterstützung in diesen Vakanzen. Und da obwohl sie mega viel arbeitet, oftmals mehr als 12 Stunden am Tag. Und jetzt gibt dann sehr oft mitarbeitende Firmen, daher nicht für Schule gehen. Das alles verändert sich auch natürlich auch. Es werden oft auch viele Pestizide aus den Plantagen eingesetzt. Das ist gefährlich für die Arbeiterinnen und Arbeiter, aber auch sehr schlecht für die Umwelt.
Ach, das wusste ich gar nicht. Aber was kann ich denn dagegen machen?
Achte beim Einkaufen des Herzfettziegels.
Das Herzfett ist auch bei anderen Produkten, wo die Produktion kritisch ist.
Zum Beispiel Kleider, Kaffee und auch Schokolade.
Achte auf das Herzfett.
So hilft auch du die Welt.
Ja, ein heißes Thema. Essen, meiden, verzichten oder ganz untierische Produkte, also vegan leben. Und damit herzlich willkommen zu unserem Video für das CreatiVelo. Heute geht es um das Thema Fleisch essen oder Fleisch weglassen. Viel Spaß! Laut einer Forschungsfrage von 2023 verzichten mittlerweile ca. 12% der Deutschen auf Fleisch. 9% davon ernähren sich vegetarisch und 3 vegan. Weitere 41% bezeichnen sich als Flexitarier. Das heißt, dass sie nur gelegentlich Fleisch essen. Indien hat mit 25% den größten Anteil von Vegetariern der Welt und Deutschland liegt dabei auf Platz 8. Der Fleischkonsum sinkt in Deutschland zwar tendenziell ab, doch trotzdem aß jeder Deutsche im Jahr 2023 ca. 51,6 Kilogramm Fleisch. Stellt euch mal vor, wie viele Schnitzel ihr da essen müsstet.
Von dieser Menge wurde Schweinefleisch am häufigsten verzehrt. Insgesamt kommt 96% unseres Fleisches aus der Massentierhaltung. Dabei sterben jährlich ca. 750 Millionen Tiere. Das sind Palla und Timo. Palla ist Vegetarierin und Timo ist Fleisch. Beide Zwillinge kommen nach der Schule hungrig nach Hause. Ihr Mittagessen sieht ganz unterschiedlich aus.
Timo, warum isst du eigentlich noch so viel Fleisch?
Und dann schmeckt es nur noch wenig statt. Da sind gar keine Nährstoffe drin. Fleisch ist dann leckerer.
Wir können ja mal unsere Lieblingsreporterin Marina fragen. Hallo Maria, kannst du bitte checken, wie das mit dem Vegan oder Vegetariern ist? Ist das gesund?
Ja klar, kann ich machen.
Super!
Hallo Mama, Timo, Oma befragt sich. Dann bin ich jetzt auf dem Weg zu der Kinderessen-Hilfe, um mit dir über das Thema vegan oder vegetarisch zu sprechen.
Ich stehe dem Thema eigentlich sehr positiv gegenüber. Also wenn sich jemand für eine vegetarische Ernährung entscheidet, finde ich das gut. Bei der veganen Ernährung sieht es aber ein bisschen anders aus. Zumindest für Kinder und Jugendliche. Wenn man sich vegan oder vegetarisch ernährt, muss man darauf achten, bei der vegetarischen Ernährung, dass man sich abwechslungsreich ernährt. Und bei der veganen Ernährung muss man darauf achten, dass man auch zusätzliche Vitamine noch zu sich nimmt, wie zum Beispiel das Vitamin B12, als Irrwitz ja eine Riesenportion ist und 1 Kilo Fleisch, werde ich eher von den Kohlenhydraten, weil das von der Menge einfach viel mehr ist. Rein wissenschaftlich gesehen gibt es da keine wirklichen Vor- oder Nachteile. Wichtig ist halt, dass man immer alles abwechslungsreich ist und nicht einseitig. Und wie gesagt, die vegane Ernährung ist für Kinder und Jugendliche aktuell nicht empfohlen.
Ich hoffe, damit eure Fragen beantwortet. Und nachdem das jetzt geklärt wäre, Timo, warum willst du immer noch so viel Preis setzen? Für euer Fleisch wird nämlich jährlich sehr, sehr viel Fläche gerodet.
Ich denke schon, aber für euer komisches Sojazeug werden ja auch Wälder abgeholzt.
Stopp, das ist doch kein Grund zum Streiten. Ich kann das doch für euch geben. Also zuerst von einer Sache müsst ihr bei den Seiten eben Vor- und Nachteile haben. Was viele von euch vielleicht noch nicht wissen, ist, dass das Futter für den Tiere sehr sojalastig ist, da es sehr viel Eiweiß enthalten ist. Damit wir das ganze Soja bekommen können, müssen immer mehr Wälder abgeholzt werden. Ihr dachtet vielleicht, dass das Soja immer nur so verwendet wird. Aber letztlich gehen 76% des Sojas für unser Tierfutter drauf. Außerdem wird der Ausstoß von 1 Kilo Fleischersatz auf Sojabasis von 2,8 Kilogramm Treibhausgase. Das ist enorm viel. Aber für 1 Kilo Schweinefleisch liegt der Wert bei 4,1 Kilogramm und bei Rindfleisch sogar bei unglaublichen 30,5 Kilogramm Treibhausgasen. Apropos Rinder, eine Kuh stößt im Jahr ca. 100 Kilogramm Methan aus. Das ist genauso viel CO2-Verbrauch, wie wenn ein Auto 18.000 Kilometer fahren würde. Siehst du, vegan oder vegetarisch sein ist gar nicht so schlecht. Und wie stehst du jetzt dazu?
Ich denke, ich werde mal Ersatzprodukte testen, aber auf jeden Fall darauf achten, dass es nur Fleisch ist und dass es aus guter Haltung kommt. Ganz darauf verzichten kann ich aber nicht, weil es schmeckt halt einfach so gut.
Okay, ich schlage jetzt mal an den Spot.
binding force of everything. So when you learn and when you come together in order to do something together, then you play out all your skills. You're not separating, say, I'm only a mathematician or I'm only now hardware worker. So you have to play this out. And my example, I mentioned this before, from India is engineers, proper engineers who say, we are proper engineers, we are engineers, we are planning material stuff, metal and electronics and everything is under our control. And then they were faced with situations where they have no control because it's about people, it's about engaging people, it's about getting people to engage themselves and do something in a different way. So that's maybe my closing word about this. It's possible, and it should be possible in more ways. So I hope we all come together the next time. We will run a yoga process for half a year next year, and I think then we will have an audience when this finishes on the October 23rd. With all the filming has been made.